We're good.
This is live from the table, the official podcast of New York's world-famous Comedy Cellar, coming at you on Sirius XM 99 Raw Dog, and on the Laugh Button Podcast Network. Dan Naturman here in lockdown. 2021 was still locked down. I'm here with Noam Dworman, owner of the world-famous Comedy Cellar, Periel Aschenbrand, our producer. With us, Graham K. award-winning comedian, as seen on Late Show with Stephen Colbert. He has an Autism Awareness podcast called Autastic, and posts new comedy sketches weekly on YouTube and Instagram. I should also mention he is a Juno Award nominee. Yes, that's right. He's Canadian, folks, but he loves America and he lives here now. And I think he has a green card. Do you have a green card, Graham?
I do. It was the best time to get one.
Graham asked me to write a letter on his behalf,
I did,
saying that we couldn't live without him here in America. And so I lied and I said that he's indispensable to the comedy scene.
And who would fill this fourth square if it wasn't me?
There's nobody else.
Yeah.
And of course, it's been a jam-packed week, obviously. A lot to talk about. Did Trump get impeached, by the way? We're recording this on Wednesday night.
Yeah, he did. I just found out now. Yeah, he got impeached.
He sure fucking did.
I saw a video on YouTube. It was a Alan Dershowitz video where he kind of breaks down the legal case for impeachment, and needless to say, he comes out against impeachment, and he makes a very convincing case. For one thing, they're not impeaching with any intent to remove him. They're impeaching only with the intent to keep him from running again. And according to Dershowitz, this is unconstitutional because the Constitution says that impeachment is for the removal of officers. Any thoughts about that, Noam?
No, I mean, I can look up the impeachment clause. Yeah, I mean, I always thought that's what it was for. You know, it's if the intention is to make sure that he never runs again, I mean, it seems a little bit undemocratic that the past is going. I mean, he's so old, it might not matter. But let's say, you know, this was 20. Let's say he was 20 years younger. It seems a little weird that the past is going to impose its will on the future on something like that. I'm more interested in the pros and cons of impeachment.
And Dershowitz also said that there's no possible case that this was incitement under the meaning of the law.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. I've been, you know, emailing back and forth with my smarter friends today, and this is a squishy thing because it's pretty clearly not incitement under the law. And then the question is, well, okay, then what does it mean for the purposes of impeachment, what does incitement mean? By the way, just for the record, I think that there's a stronger case to impeach him for trying to pressure people to overturn the election, as it were. But incitement, I mean, and if you can't tell me what it means, then how does he defend himself? Like, you know, I don't think we're caught up. And a lot of people will come to me, answers are like, I think you should be worrying about more important things. And don't you know, people, and a lot of these answers reminded me of like when people after 9/11 were bringing up objections to the Patriot Act, people would say, I think you should have more important things to worry about now than, you know, that. The World Trade Center came down, you know. I'm sure that when Roosevelt was rounding up the Japanese, people said, wait a second, what are you talking about? There's a war going on. You know, it's very easy to make somebody seem like they're on the wrong side of things when they're bringing up logical things at a time when everybody's caught up in an emotional, and when I say emotional, doesn't mean it's not the right emotion, but it's an emotional wave. But I think it's weird to impeach somebody for a charge if the charge doesn't have a meaning, and you can't, or I think it's weird for a very smart person to say, yes, I believe it's incitement. And so how would you define incitement? And they don't have an answer to that. That's seems to me prima facie sloppy thinking. You should certainly know what you mean and be able to say what you mean.
Now, I will say that, you know, you could say that, but for Trump's words, it wouldn't have happened, but that's not incitement.
I don't know if you could say that. I don't know. I don't have enough.
You could make a case. You could certainly make the case.
You could make the case. Yeah. I mean,
but a good one that if Trump didn't say what he said, and didn't encourage this, it wouldn't have.
Well,
happened.
tell me,
That
maybe
doesn't mean it's incitement.
Wait, maybe you know the facts. I don't know. Was this protest already planned? It seemed like it was, right? The rally was already planned.
The FBI had, transactions online saying that they were planning it. So yeah.
Yeah. So it doesn't seem an open and shut case at all that without Trump's words. I mean, there was a pipe bomb planted. That was before Trump's words, right?
No,
I mean, so I tried to. Charlie Savage wrote a thing. What did Trump say? And I
don't
tried.
think it was before Trump said that though, because he said it multiple times. That was like the second or third time, that speech a few hours before the march.
Yeah. Well, so listen. So this is my personal standard for incitement. I would say, if I heard those words, would I think he was telling me to do what was done? So here's like the main paragraph. I'll read it and I hear it and I listen to it and I say, would I have been in that crowd? Would I have thought he's telling me to go breach the barrier of the Capitol and go in and take over the Capitol? I don't think I would have thought that, but I'll read it. Republicans are constantly fighting like a boxer with his hands tied behind his back. It's like a boxer, and we want to be so nice. We want to be so respectful of everybody, including bad people, and we're going to have to fight much harder. We're going to walk down to the Capitol, and we're going to cheer our brave senators and congressmen and women. We're probably not going to be cheering so much for them, but because, we'll never take our country with weakness. You have to show strength and be strong. And then shortly after that, he says, I know that everyone here will soon be marching over to the Capitol building to peacefully and patriotically make your voices heard. So that's now it fires people up. It rallies them. When you fire people up, shit can happen. It can't be taken out of the context of, a month of saying that he was robbed and all sorts of things. But is that incite? Would I have heard those words and said, he wants me to go in and take over the Capitol? I'm going to tell you, even though it might risk my invitations at polite company parties in the future, I don't think I would have taken it that way. I would have taken it as, you need to go protest, scream and yell, no justice, no peace, fight the powers that be. I would take it in the context of those very well, those other kinds of fight analogies that we're used to, that have been associated with violence, by the way, but nobody ever said was incitement to violence. So that's I don't know.
Now let's get a Canadian perspective, because there are reasonable people, peaceful people.
Is he being impeached specifically for that, or is it
Yes.
also for trying to steal the election?
No, for the incitement.
The incitement to violence.
I thought that he also said, march. I want you to march on the Capitol. Like, he specifically said that sentence.
Well, there's one other thing. He says, when you catch somebody in fraud, you're allowed to go by very different rules. So I hope Mike has the courage to do what he has to do. Talking about Mike Pence. I don't see that as violence. I'm not cherry picking. I'm assuming that the Times was cherry picking, and I'm reading their cherry picked article. So I'm scanning. So help me God, I'm not trying to leave. I tried to read the most.
I thought I read that he said march, but
here it is. Yeah, here's maybe what you're referring to. Now it is up to Congress to confront this egregious assault on our democracy. And after this, we're going to walk down, and I'll be there with you.
Yeah.
We're going to the Capitol. We're going to try and give the Democrats. The Democrats are hopeless. They're never voting for anything, not even one vote. But we're going to try give our Republicans the weak ones, because the strong ones don't need any of our help. We're going to try and give them the kind of pride and boldness they need to take back our country. So
yeah,
I don't think this is incitement to violence. It's reckless. It's reckless in the sense that things were getting so hot that a responsible president would have gone out there and said, listen, I'm going to say some things here that are going to get you all fired up. But let's be clear right at the onset. We are to have no violence. We are not going to be like them. They're the party of looting and protest. That's not us. So don't even think about it. Like, that would be a wise man to say those things, because any wise person knows when people are that riled up, anything could happen, and anything could happen. But you could say that about Black Lives Matter speeches too, that riled people so much that violence happened. and nobody would say it was incitement to violence.
Well,
It was just incautious. And if they want to say, I mean, there's going to be a trial there in the Senate. So if they want to say, if they could define incitement as being incautious, yeah, he's guilty, you know. But tell me what incitement.
I think the main difference in people's minds, between the
I shouldn't say incautious, reckless. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I think because they find his theory that the election was stolen such lunacy, which I think it is.
I think it is too.
That in and of itself, that's the difference that people see between Black Lives Matter and Trump's. You know, if the election really was stolen, well, then it would be a different story. But because he kind of made it up out of whole, either he's lying or he's a lunatic. I mean,
here's the thing. He pressured government officials clearly to redo their arithmetic to find
votes
to change the election, right? Or to at least to give him a fighting chance to fight it. He pressured the guy from Georgia. He pressured Pence. That seems to me a much clearer violation of his oath. I mean, I could understand that standard. Did he do that? Did he improperly pressure people to like suborn whatever it is? And that seems like a much cleaner thing. But
you have a cleaner case for the guy is like a nut by saying that this election was stolen.
Yeah, well, if they want to say, but that's the thing. If they want to say, listen, the real reason we're impeaching him is because we can't trust this guy another day, that can't be the reason because the trial's not going to happen until the Senate comes back. But if that's so, they should just say that. There's something about this which is.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So they're doing this because so he won't be able to run again in 4 years. If he gets impeached again, impeachment is the process, not the.
He has to get convicted. He has to get.
Yeah. So he has to be convicted. Yeah. So okay. So this is.
But how would they convict him?
Convicted, you know, is this going to tie him up at all? So he won't be able to like ruin the country anymore, or.
No. He's. I mean, it's a dangerous. Let's be honest. Anybody who sees how nutty this guy is crossing their fingers and hoping the next, whatever number of days it is, passes. Impeachment is not going to. I mean, one could say, if you're really worried about him, you don't. What's the expression about a hornet's nest? You don't stick a hornet's nest. I mean, one could certainly say. And would say in other contexts, if you're that worried about this guy right now and there's no way to remove him, maybe it's time to go easy right now. Maybe impeachment is not the thing to do to a guy who
well, one could argue that if we're going to go by an but-for standard, impeachment might cause violence. If we're going to say that were it not for A, B wouldn't have happened, we could apply that perhaps to an impeachment hearing.
Well, impeachment might cause violence, especially, I don't think impeachment is going to cause violence, but in the context of what happened to Parler taken down and Twitter and all it's a perfect storm. The pandemic.
So why don't we talk about that? The fact that Twitter censored Trump, because apparently Trump, he said something on Twitter to the effect that, well, this is what happens when you steal an election. And Twitter shut him down, and I think Facebook shut him down, and I assume he doesn't have an Instagram account, and I'm pretty sure he doesn't have a TikTok account, but he's been shut down.
He definitely doesn't have a TikTok account.
Apparently, YouPorn is all right with him.
But I mean, now we all know, and it's been said 80 trillion times that yes, these are private companies. The Constitution does not forbid them from doing this, but should they be doing this?
Why don't they just give him a bunch of prostitutes and hamburgers, and he'll just have his hands full, and then let him go on Twitter, but have when you screen share with tech help and they go on your screen and they can see what's happening, and he thinks he's on Twitter but he's not.
Well, I think he has access to hamburgers and prostitutes anyway.
Yeah, that's true.
But
that's a good point, Dan. I'm sorry.
Thank you. I don't mean to, overanalyze.
No, you're right.
Good point.
I'm an idiot.
But,
I'm just learning your culture.
If you go on and read the Twitter explanation of why they banned him,
Lifetime ban, I believe.
It's pretty lame. I don't see why they just couldn't have put his tweets on double secret probation, case by case basis, and let them through. So I can just read a little bit of it here. It says it violates their glorification of violence policy. And so I'll give you one example, and you can tell me, I'll give you one example of what they say here was glorifying violence, and you can tell me how ridiculous it is or not. I think it's ridiculous. Trump tweeted, 75,000 great American patriots have voted me, America first, and make America great again, and have a giant voice long in the future. They will not be disrespected or treated unfairly or in any other way or shape or form. Shortly thereafter, the president also tweeted, to all those who have asked, I will not be going to the inauguration on January 20th. And they wrote, assessment is, we assess these two tweets referenced above as under our glorification of violence policy. A number of factors. Trump's statement that he will not be attending the inauguration is being received by a number of his supporters as further confirmation that the election was not legitimate, and seen him as disavowing his previous claim made in tweets 1 and 2 by so a second tweet also may serve encouragement to those potentially considering violent acts that the inauguration will be a safe target as he will not be attending. So you understand, like this is the best they could come up with. By Trump saying, I'm not going to the inauguration, he was telegraphing that I won't be there. So if you want to bomb, go ahead. And that's their glorification of violence. That's Twitter talking. That's actually them trying to explain themselves. I mean, what? Am I crazy?
Well, didn't he also say, as
I'll message it to everybody. I know sometimes this stuff is so silly that people say, oh, he can't be being straight with us.
That's ridiculous. That's preposterous.
Anybody can look it up. And if you write us at podcast@comedyseller.com, if you don't think I was being straight with you, it was blog.twitter.com.
Didn't he also, I think they also had a problem when he said that this is what happens when you steal an election in response to the riots.
No, he got bombed, but he got banned before that. No, well, I mean, I'm reading the two tweets that they identified. Those are the tweets they identified. Permanent suspension of Donald Trump. Okay. And those are the only two tweets that they identify. I read them to you. So I don't know.
Do you think that Noam, do you think that now that he's off Twitter, he will have less of an ability to incite violence?
No. He can go on in front of a camera, say whatever he wants now that he's mad, now that he has also he can get off the election thing, and he has a real righteous cause, which is they banned me and they banned you and they took down Parler. And then people on Twitter will just tweet what it is that he said. And then how will Twitter look if they have to start, suppressing all the tweets of Twitter accounts of people who were reporting what the president said? And how are you going to get them off Fox? Censorship. This is the ugly truth. And this is what I'm amazed that people are not getting this, leaving aside the fact that Twitter does, I think, have the legal right to do it. They are a private company. Censorship begets censorship. This is why the only way China could effectively control its country is by shutting down the internet all around. They control the very, the bubble of the internet. You shut down Twitter. It's impossible. All you do is anger everybody. Now everybody's moving to Telegram, I read. Well, Telegram is encrypted and law enforcement can't even monitor it. Then they shut down Parler, which is nuts. And they shut it down with no notice. And apparently they gave like 24 hours notice and then wouldn't return any phone calls. And now what is that going to accomplish?
I don't know about any other countries, but I know that in Canada, and I also know that in Germany, they have pretty strict hate speech laws that they do enforce seemingly without begetting other restrictions, like you said. Like the slippery slope isn't happening there.
Well, yes and no. First of all, just because it's related, Angela Merkel apparently, has publicly objected to the fact that Trump was taken off Twitter. So that's interesting. Second of all, I remember a story when I was in Canada, like, I don't know, 7, 8.
There's a comedian there's a comedian in Montreal who made fun of a physically handicapped.
Oh yeah. We had him on this show, I think.
And Mark Stein also said some stuff about, Islam or whatever it is, and he got tried for hate speech laws. And but I have had a theory for a long time that
those are very isolated cases, and they were rebuked even by the left in Canada. It was like everyone's like, this is ridiculous.
well, there was a case in England of a book more recently. There are cases, of course, with all these things. You don't know what the self-censorship that comes from this stuff, but
it sort of holds these groups like the Proud Boys or whatever from getting out of hand.
Well, what Graham is saying is that we can't, if we restrict free speech a little bit, it won't necessarily snowball into, like if we just say no more hate speech, you can't use the N-word, or you can't.
I don't think it's just a rule like that. I don't know. I
Can you
understand.
imagine a law that says you can go to jail for using the N-word? I mean, this is...
Well, we're not saying that. I'm not saying that anyway.
We're saying that other countries have those laws. I mean, in Germany, if you deny the Holocaust, you can go to jail.
Yeah, I don't like that. I think it makes people suspicious. But but this is my theory for a while. I think that listen, I don't know what those hate speech laws are anyway. I mean, Charlie Hebdo was making those outrageous cartoons about the Prophet Muhammad, and they did so with impunity, as they should be able to. But I mean, if that's not hate speech, then I guess the hate speech laws are just, then I mean, if you can draw the Prophet Muhammad having anal sex and not worry about the hate speech laws, then maybe the hate speech laws are just symbolic. But let me get my main point is that I think that for a long time, America is the anchor point on free speech law, and America being so clear about its First Amendment, I think the other countries in Europe and Canada could only get so far away from us without being a little embarrassed. I worry that if America moves towards Europe, that will be license for Europe to move even further in that direction. I also don't know if Europe has the same issues that we have. I don't know enough about Europe. I know that America's done very, very well all these years without regulating free speech, and I wouldn't jump the gun. I don't think we should start prosecuting people.
They have regulated the news, though, the way the news can broadcast things. So like there's all those laws that were taken down in the early 90s by the Bush administration about having you have to show both sides on a newscast, and that was taken away, and then it's just a slippery slope into what we have now.
No, but there was
always editors that would stop like an educated non-lunatic that was a stopgap between somebody printing something crazy in a newspaper, and Twitter doesn't have that, obviously.
Hold on, I know you're a Canadian, but you're referring to the fairness doctrine, and
Yeah.
that was not a rule about news. That was a rule about if you wanted to use the public airwaves broadcast, because that was considered to be a finite resource. The number of the number of TV channels, essentially.
So like ABC is not on a public airwave?
No, nobody is anymore. It's cable.
But I mean back then.
Yeah. So I mean, I guess they still broadcast, but it's an irrelevant law at this point.
I have rabbit ears here because I make a lot of money.
Yeah.
And I get ABC and Fox and whatever, and that's public airways, right?
No, you're right, but I'm saying that the only reason that fairness doctrine existed was under the rationale that because there was a limit, because there was such a limit of number of people that could broadcast, we needed to protect it. But right now, there is no limit. Even if there's a limit still in the number of people on the airwaves, we have thousands of channels, YouTube, internet, whatever it is. The notion that we might be deprived of different points of view is obsolete.
There was no loosening of laws by Dick Cheney in the early 90s.
No, I don't think that's true. That was I saw that in that movie Veep or whatever it was. It's not true. It was actually it was totally false. That Adam McKay movie.
Yeah.
It's actually one of his lies in that movie. It had nothing to do with Cheney.
I mean, I think that their standards should be Twitter and the other social media should just be if the Constitution would not prohibit the government from censoring this, we won't either. I mean, that would, I think, be a sensible standard for them. Obviously, as a private company, they can do what they want, but
the fairness doctrine was revoked in June 2011.
Yeah, but it was like neutered 20 years before that, right? I mean, I don't know.
No, I don't.
I do. I mean, I heard.
Like I said, it's an obsolete. It's an obsolete law because we don't get our. There's no limit. We get our news from the internet now. We're not starving.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, we're not starving for opposing points of view, are we?
There was always some sort of I mean, even on Fox, there is some sort of checks and balances. On Twitter, there's none. So it's like it's just a new.
It's like picking up the phone.
America has always been okay with what we have, but the world's completely changed with social media, right?
I mean, what should Twitter's standard be, Noam, if you were in charge in an ideal world?
No, I listen. In an ideal world, listen, I think Jack Dorsey has been indecisive, ad hoc, and he's to blame here a little bit. If I had Twitter, we've known these problems were on the horizon for years already. If I had Twitter, I would have pegged my standard to the First Amendment. I would have created a very clear standard and a Twitter court, as it were, and I would have given people the right to appeal and create some sort of hearing, and I would have made it such that anybody who gets thrown off Twitter, like all good laws and rules, that they're very predictive. That it'll be very clear to people that, if you do this, you're deciding that you're ready to get thrown off, or you're a very good chance you might get thrown off. But what they do is like the Ayatollah Khomeini. Have you seen it going around on in the news today? The Ayatollah Khomeini still has tweets, or Khomeini has tweets there, calling for that Israel's a cancer and we need to destroy them and bring them down. So, I would fault Jack Dorsey immensely for thinking that, we're going to allow this, or we're not going to allow that. And essentially in the end, I don't want the Muslims blowing up Twitter, so I'm going to let them do this. I'm reading his mind, but why else is he allowing the Iranians to do such a thing? But even if that's not the reason, that's no way to run a business. I mean, that's no way to be respected. Have a standard and apply it across the board.
It's more than a business. It's become the way discourse is conducted in America.
But his job is to run a business, right? I mean, his job is to maximize the value of his shares.
So there's two questions: what's best for Twitter, and what's best for America? What's best for society?
Well, I think it's what I'm describing is best for both. I think that it shouldn't be so obvious from the totality what the political point of view of the owner of Twitter is, and it is obvious. In other words, I'm saying that sure, you could have created a standard where it would have been very clear that Trump should have been thrown off, and throw everybody off also who meets that standard. And then if you don't like it, start up another company like Parler, and that would be fine, but the fact is now this thing with Parler coming down, and Parler, when it was brought down, I've never been on Parler. Have you, Dan?
A little bit. It's kind of a cesspool.
I'm sorry.
Parler, what?
I'm sorry to cut you off, but Elizabeth is here, and
tell her 5 minutes. When Parler was brought down, it was the number one downloaded app in the country. And I mean, it is a bad look when all the most powerful tech companies in the world lock arms and find a way to suppress this kind of thing from, if it's the number one app in the country, it's not just a bunch of crazy people, violent people downloading it. It's everyday people like Dan Naturman, everyday conservatives, whatever, who just want to hear other points of view. And the whole thing put together is really scary. And the thing is, Parler will be back. And then offshore, whatever it is. And then people say, oh shit, they're back. Well, if they're really a threat, I mean, maybe we need it. This is how you backed it. Okay, now we need the government to stop them. Okay, we got to go because Elizabeth's here and we don't want to talk about politics when Elizabeth is on because that's not her thing.
Go ahead,
Graham.
I just have a quick thing. Is the leader of the Proud Boys fired me once from a job I had.
Gavin McInnes?
Yeah, he fired me.
Now that is a step too far.
I don't think he's the leader of the Proud Boys anymore. But he is the founder, right?
I met him one time.
Yeah,
I had no idea who he was.
He hung out at the Comedy Cellar a couple times.
Yeah.
Hello.
He fired me from Vice magazine in like 12 years ago. Yeah. Anyway, that's
on that note, okay. Hi, Elizabeth.
Hey, how are you guys doing?
Okay.
Elizabeth Bernstein.
Okay, enough about Trump. Let's talk about sex.
She's been a reporter for the Wall Street Journal for 20 years. You look fabulous.
You don't have to age me, but thank you.
Well, that's what was written in your bio. Don't blame me.
It is.
For the past decade, She has written a column she had created called Bonds on Relationships, about the psychology of relationships. Now, you have a lot to teach me. I don't know much about psychology of relationships. But anyway, welcome, Elizabeth Bernstein, to the program.
Thank you.
Let me introduce you around. I'm Dan Naturman. You know Noam Dworman. He's the owner of the world-famous comedy seller Periel Aschenbrand. Is our producer. She's also an author. And Graham Kay is a comedian, originally from Toronto?
Ottawa.
Ottawa. That's the capital of Canada.
That's right.
And he's living here now, and he is with us as well. So, hello.
Graham, you know Dan is Canadian. You know that, right?
No, he's not Canadian. My parents are Canadian, and when I was born, I was dual. But at the age of 25, I didn't even know this, by the way, until relatively recently. But I was dual citizen until the age of 25, at which point I had to fill out some paperwork, and I didn't do it.
I'm sorry, Graham. I stand corrected. Dan was Canadian until the age of 25.
He rejected it.
I didn't even know. I didn't know that I had the option, to be honest. But
you stabbed us in the back, and I understand.
well, I don't really need you guys anymore because I'm too old to get drafted. So I don't need to be a Canadian anymore. That would have been, I guess, a potential benefit if I ever wanted to dodge the draft. I could have just scurried up.
And I don't know how wise our military is, but somehow I don't think you were ever going to be on the front lines of any war. Nor would I.
When I
All right,
crossed the
look.
border, when I first got my green card, the American border guard told me that I wasn't allowed to vote, but I could get drafted. That's what he told me. So
All right. Elizabeth has two recent columns I would like to talk about both because both of them are important issues. One of them is, and Periel probably would like to lead the conversation here, is how do you improve your boring sex life during a pandemic? And the other one is how to stop the negativity in your brain. Both of these are I think hit home with people during our recent time. So which one do you want to handle first, Periel?
I think that we should tackle the second one first.
The first one hits too close to home.
If you get rid of the negativity, then maybe your sex life will improve.
Okay. So go ahead, Elizabeth. Tell us about your comment on negativity. And it's really nice to see you. I haven't seen you in a long time. It's almost 4 years ago.
It's been a long time. It was in person last time, but thanks for having me on.
Yeah,
Good to see you too. How to stop the negativity in your brain. That's a big topic right now. I don't think I'm the only one that's been pretty negative in my head. But this is what I do in my column is I talk to psychologists, researchers, and I hear from a ton of readers. Like a lot of people write me all the time. And what I've heard over and over is I cannot stop these runaway catastrophic thoughts no matter what's going on. And it seems like every day is worse than the next. And now it's not even just in our heads, we're watching stuff. So I talked last week to a really interesting researcher who is an emotion regulation guy. He's got a new book out called Chatter, which I thought was actually really, really good. And he taught me some techniques, which I hopefully taught readers about that. One of the things is you have to arrest a thought immediately when you're having a negative thought. You want to stop it, as soon as you can. And you want to do something called cognitive reappraisal, which sounds really techy. But what it is you want to replace that negative thought with a positive one, but a true positive one. It can't just be a made up, I can't decide I'm going to win the Nobel Prize, but, possibly I can meet my deadline, that kind of positive thought.
So what kinds of negative thoughts are people having in the pandemic that they weren't having before, or what effect is the pandemic having on people's thinking? Are the negative thoughts directly related to the pandemic, or are they just more depressed and so everything becomes negative?
It starts off where it's sort of the pandemic freaks people out. Now everybody's pretty negative. And what's happened, and research shows us over and over, psychologists tell me about it every single week, no matter what I'm reporting on, is that we are all now sort of in a heightened fight or flight response mode where we're really activated. Our brains are activated, ready to fight or flee. So in that mode, you may start out worried about, maybe I'm worried, want to keep myself safe. I'm down in Miami where people don't wear masks. It's everybody's just running around. So worried, can I keep myself safe? But in that heightened fight or flight mode over weeks and months, now anything's going to get me. I'm worried about anything. Well, am I going to anything. Am I going to lose my job? Am I going to break my leg? It just doesn't even make sense anymore. People are so stressed out.
By the way, did you see Noam, that Cuomo tweeted that we got to, I think I sent it to you. He said we got to open up because we can't continue to be locked down.
Yeah, but I don't know if Elizabeth wants to get dragged into that.
Politics,
But let me, and I'm curious to know if everybody in the panel feels the same way. I find that if I have negative thoughts, thinking positive thoughts has absolutely it just doesn't help. It's almost as if the chemicals that cause negativity are there and they have to dissipate unless something really, like something happens or something takes my mind off it. I feel like I'm a hostage to those negative feelings. Am I wrong?
I don't think a lot of, if I could just jump in.
Like drugs would help me. Go ahead, Dan.
I just don't know if a lot of these techniques work with Noam in general, because he's just so hyper analytical and skeptical. He's going in with a very skeptical attitude.
Well, do they work for you? You're not exactly a beacon of
I haven't
happiness.
tried the positive thought experiment.
But there's more to that. So if you can't do the positive thought, people know it's nature and nurture. So it's personality, it's how you were raised, it's some genetics. But if you can't adjust your thoughts, and many people can, there's other things. And you said a word, you can distract yourself, Noam. I do this with reading, read, just get into something, anything that will distract you. And that lets your brain stop like fleeing.
I will say this. This is related to me. I just started learning guitar, and I found my mood to be quite improved since that time. Although my fingers are not improved. I tried a bar chord and I didn't slice it, but I severely injured my index finger. No, I don't know how you do those things.
Well, you're not obviously not the way you're doing it, but
and the tips of my fingers are painful, so that's a distraction. But I've been very into it, and I don't know how long I'll stick with it.
Well, I can tell you what works. I actually know this works, but I don't know if it makes you happy. But I learned this years ago, like 1999 or something, when I was opening up the business. I had a tremendous amount of pressure, and I was depressed, and all great relationship pressure on top of business pressure. And it was a dark time for me. I was fighting with my father. It was a bad time. And they had this kiosk, digital machine, video machine at the bar I was at, and it had one of those games where you had to instantly, like, get 3 seconds to answer. Essentially, it was a card game, but essentially 3 seconds to answer kind of a math thing. Oh, boom, 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 boom. And it required such absolute attention. You literally could not multitask. I noticed right away, I was not able to think about anything but answering that next question. And as long as I played that game, I was not able to dwell on any of my problems because it was too fast. Mm-hmm. So I don't know how that can be done by analogy in other situations, but I did notice that was a very powerful lesson to me at that time. Like, holy shit, this works.
Graham,
it made me happy, but as long as I'm playing it, I could not be depressed.
I wanted to ask Graham how he has been. We haven't spoken to him in so long. How's he's holding up under the psychic strain of lockdown, American style?
I am good. First of all, I think I'm like half joking, but being locked down is very close to a comedian's normal schedule. You're home alone all day, and like I really was only seeing people for 2 hours, 3 hours at nighttime, and that's it. And so I do that.
That's like saying I was only eating 2 meals a day, so I don't have to eat. I mean, those 3 hours were damn important.
I know, but I have like my little bubble. I go on walks with those people. I'm good. I'm just built for this. I'm okay. I mean, I'm good at creating projects and whatever, and making dumb videos and just doing it that way. I'm lucky that I have residual money, so I'm not starving. I'm not saving any money.
In Degrassi Junior High or something?
Yeah. Yes, I was. I was the third guy in a wheelchair. But yeah, so it's like, I don't know. I'm good. I'm good at making goals. I'm good at being alone, I guess. I don't know. I'm just used to it. It's like being on the road forever, kind of.
Well, I think that we're very lucky that we're having this pandemic in the even 5-6 years ago. It would have been much more difficult.
Yes.
Zoom is not a replacement for being there physically with somebody, but it's not that bad. I mean, you know, if you have like an hour-long Zoom call with somebody, it really feels like you've been sitting at a table with them. It's not like it's not sexual, but here's my wife, so we got to talk about something else. She's leaving.
You know, it's not quite the same as being with people in person, obviously.
But it's not. But what I'm saying is, imagine life before Zoom.
Yes.
Like imagine this pandemic, and imagine without Amazon, without the delivery. I mean, there's a
Elizabeth,
not the worst it could be.
And video games. Like I don't play video games, but all my friends are. It seems to be really helping them.
Yeah.
Is it possible,
we'd be done by now with this?
Is it possible that without this technology, we just wouldn't have gone into lockdown because it would have been like, fuck it, we ain't doing it?
Absolutely. We're barely able to hold lockdown now.
Elizabeth,
the last few times I've been on the road, the traffic is gnarling. You know, like it doesn't look like any lockdown to me.
No.
People have had it, and you can't blame them.
Elizabeth, what do you think about Zoom as a substitute or partial substitute for in-person contact? Is it a great benefit to have it?
Yeah, I think it's a great benefit. I agree with Noam. It's a great benefit to have it. I can't imagine if we couldn't see people talk. It gives you some sense of being connected. But I think the touch and even the non-sexual, the hugs, you know, the being together, like I do think that people crave that. And the more it goes on, the more it's wearing on them, you know, and the travel. For me, I'm in Miami. I used to go up to New York about once a month for a week at a time. And I just, that is what I miss the most. Like, so, and all of my friends up there, my job, everything. So I'm used to this is my baseline, working at home alone. That's fine. I've worked at home for many years alone, but the travel.
No, I was gonna say, you know what else I noticed? This could be wrong. It could just be getting used to it. But I noticed it was video technology for a long time, Skype, right? I never, ever wanted to talk to anybody on a video phone.
It was an assault 10 months ago if someone just FaceTimed you out of the blue.
Yeah.
But now, and perhaps it's just we got used to it, or perhaps it's because we're happy to see another face.
Yeah.
Now I prefer the Zoom call. I never did before, you know, so I don't, or both, maybe both factors. Is that reverberate with you guys?
My brother has pretty severe autism. I mean, he's verbal, he can talk. He's sort of like Rain Man without any skills. He really benefits from, I mean, I taught him how to download WhatsApp, and we talk all the time. We talk every day.
You're the Tom Cruise in this story?
Yeah, yes, I am Tom Cruise. Except I have like a bicycle instead of that cool car.
Except you're older, not Tom Cruise was the younger brother.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I'm older.
So go ahead.
Anyway, it was a good point, Dan. You don't let me slip. But,
I like to keep our analogies.
Yeah. But it does help him emotionally cope with this, because he does live on his own, semi-assisted, but when there's a lockdown, the people can't visit him. And so there was a month there where it was just FaceTiming with me, because my parents, they don't know, they can't, even though they know how to do it, they don't know how to do it. They won't do it.
Sounds like he's like a lot higher functioning than a lot of autistic people.
I mean, he doesn't understand that, like $5 is worth more than 10 cents, because 10 is more than 5. Like, you could never explain that to him.
Well, he is verbal though, and he can live on his own.
Yeah, with if like the alarm goes off, then like he can't deal with that.
It's interesting you say that, because I read an article. Apparently, when Jewish people have autism, it's exactly the opposite.
Yeah, it's a superpower.
Anyway, I'm sorry.
It has benefited, is all I'm saying.
So, okay, the next thing, Elizabeth, can I move on to the other column now that my wife is out of the room?
Sure, but I was going to say that can I say, I really relate to what Graham's saying, because my father had a very tough stroke, a bad stroke about 1.5 years ago, and he has aphasia, so he does not understand language. He can speak, but does not take it in. So it's the same thing. Without FaceTime right now, like I would not be able to, there's no calling him, there's no like language, but in FaceTime you can, communicate a little bit, like at least we see each other. And so I really relate to that. And I think in that way, it's something to think about. There's relationships that would have just dropped off without this technology.
But again, we might not have, without this technology, the laws might be different, because we might just be unable to have a lockdown and just like, fuck it, we'll just take a chance. But no, you want to get onto her next call?
Well, so I just Googled to make sure I remember. I just had a flashback from one of the actual things I guess I learned in college, but I thought about aphasia. That's sometimes caused by when the two hemispheres of the brain the corpus callosum, is that right?
Yeah, I know his is he had in it just wiped out the language area of his brain. It's just devastating.
I think it's called the Broca area.
Yeah, it's not. It's but he doesn't
remember
have
something about
ability.
Brachial.
I seem to remember something about the Broca area when I took abnormal psychology and lived it in college. Broca's area is
Broca aphasia. Okay, maybe it's not nice to talk about it because Elizabeth's father actually suffers from it. All right.
I mean, it's okay. I'm fascinated by it, but I just don't know the answer to the area of the brain.
Yeah. It is. If you read some of the stories about people with it, I don't know if your father is one, but it's like this. They have the most weird, manifestations of it that are so interesting and give insight into how the brain processes things. Right. Like they can understand, but they can't speak. They can read it, but they can't say it back to you, and all kinds of. Yeah.
There's nothing no language he can understand at all, but he can sometimes speak completely. I mean, go on and on. You understand every word he says, but he does not understand a word back.
It's actually kind of.
I mean, think about that.
He understands what he's saying, though, even if he doesn't understand.
Sometimes it's gibberish, and sometimes it's especially if it's something he's accessing from before, it's all right there. And it has nothing to do with senility. Like he knows exactly what's happening. Like he got a COVID shot today. He knew he was getting it. I mean, he knows what's going on, but he can't. When he speaks, he thinks he's fine. He thinks we're nuts. Why don't we understand him?
Sometimes people have the stroke or they have some brain event and their first language is wiped out, but their second language is, because it's in a different part of the brain, they can still speak a second language, which they might not speak very well, but to whatever level that they can speak it.
Exactly.
Aren't there stories? Go ahead, sorry.
Reading. Sorry, we can't tell how much he can read, but he pores over the New York Times for hours a day, which is normal for him anyway before. But so we get a sense that he is taking in a much more reading than
he can read
zero language.
Sorry? So what if you were to like have a white erase board and be like,
He can sometimes read it and sometimes not. So we just can't tell how much, sometimes we're sure he's wrong. He's reading a Times article. We're sure he doesn't know what he's talking about. We look over his shoulder. He's completely right. Sometimes the whiteboard, he doesn't understand a word. It's just
right.
He can't really write, a little bit, but not much. Like he did call his accountant and, yesterday out of the blue, my mom heard him in the other room. So he somehow accessed the number, not on his cell phone, on the landline. He was mad. My mom wasn't giving him money. So, which is just, he can't have it. But she heard him, talking, I need you to transfer some money right now. So it's just really, he's actually like incredible, but it's just also a devastating thing. And then when Graham was talking, it made me realize like I wouldn't get to FaceTime him, if it wasn't for some of this technology. I do visit them; they're in my pod.
Anyway, we should probably move on to the next topic.
But Dan, isn't there some story somewhere where somebody had a stroke and started speaking another language, and that's how they discovered that there was the story that the person had a whole backstory they didn't even know about, either adopted or.
No, I think you're right. Yeah.
That's particularly fascinating.
Yeah.
Who's the one with the man who mistook his wife for a hat?
That's Oliver Sacks.
Oliver Sacks, that's right. What did he have? Didn't he have?
I don't think he had anything. He was just a researcher. I mean, he might have been on the spectrum, but.
Okay.
Okay. Well, anyway, I have a question for Elizabeth. Wait 1 second. Elizabeth, is it true also that, it seems like part of what you're talking about of replacing negativity with positivity, if you're actively trying, I mean, Noam, I don't think you could ever do that. It's just so part of your, but is there like something about gratitude or really like actively trying to focus on what the things that you're grateful for? Like if you're actively trying to do that, assuming that you don't suffer from like clinical depression, I mean, is that sort of in the world of?
It is. And, you know, I wrote a whole column on gratitude because the research is fascinating on it. And also something interesting I was just thinking of, it's not like necessary or even desirable to completely replace negative feelings, because it's how we stay safe from an evolutionary perspective. We need to be scanning for the threats. And some, like I said, personalities are just not going to do it. But you don't want to banish all negativity. You just don't want to feel like crap all the time, right? Like you just don't want to be miserable. You don't want to be depressed. And so the research on gratitude is really interesting. It shows that if you even look at 3 things today that you're grateful for, and it can be something so simple like I had a good cup of coffee, or, you know, I managed to, you know, get 2 loads of laundry, and whatever it is within your parameters, it can really help you. And they say, like, write them down every day, or write it from yesterday, or write them and little practices can help balance. Like, it's, again, you don't want to get rid of all the negativity, but you want to bat out so you're not miserable.
Or that if you wait.
All right, Periel, we're trying to get to the other topic.
Fun fact from Elizabeth's column, by the way, you can think to yourself at the rate of 4,000 words per minute, which means that in a minute and a half, you can process as many words as the State of the Union address. That's just remarkable to me.
Wow.
Okay, now, next column.
Sex.
Sex. Can we make our sex lives fun again? First of all, that's a leading question, I'd say, but few people report feeling sexy in the pandemic, but there are ways to reignite the spark. So let's do it this way. Periel, why don't you share with us, you know, the areas where your sex life is boring you, and then Elizabeth can tell you what you learned about how you can improve it.
Well, I think that having been in several very long relationships in my, you know, throughout the course of my life, I think that there's something in the beginning of relationships where like the sex is presumably like amazing. And at some point after several years, that, you know, sort of spark or zing, if you will, that just changes, right?
Yeah. And you know, researchers know exactly how long that is, 18 months. It's 18 months. And this is one of my favorite facts I ever learned in any of my, I ever like doing my column is Catherine the Great had a great deal of lovers. And in her palace, she would install them like in an apartment very close to her apartments in her palace. And they always, when she was young, when she took, you know, the reign, but as she got older, she got rid of them every 18 months to 2 years. And
oh my God, that's so amazing.
She bought them like a DACA and off they went. And then the next, so starting out, you know, I can't remember how old she was, 25 maybe, but don't quote me on that, but starting out. So as she aged, and even when she was much older, they were always 25. And then 2 years later, off they went into the, you know, off they went to the steps. And then she and so that's why. So nobody knew then, but researchers believe now it's because after that 2 year, about 18 months to 2 year spark, that if you're the queen or you're the, you know, you get rid of them. If
18 months is a year and a half, right? So I should have 10 lovers every 15 years, I think.
But if you're not a queen or a czarina, you will die alone if you do that.
Yeah, you will die alone, or you've got to try to find a way to keep the spark going, right? So,
or if you're friends.
Okay, so how do
right?
people,
in Europe and in other cultures, like that's totally normal, right?
Yeah, this is probably why, because you get somebody, you know, to entertain yourself. And also this is why they look the other way, like, go entertain my spouse, because frankly, I'm a little tired of them and I'll have my person. And but now finances, children, home, we're going to live together. It is a very French way.
Is that true? Do they really do that still? Like, is that a
man
say that? Will
Yeah, I think
I've read about it. I myself have not personally experimented with it.
All right, so let me go
don't
through.
know, but I do think it is
Hold on.
true.
Let me go through the bullet point now.
I mean in Europe specifically, just to clarify what I was saying.
So Elizabeth wrote this column more than a month ago. So if she's like me, this might not be fair to expect her to remember everything was in it. But I'm going to go through the bullet points, and maybe if you remember, you do.
Thank you.
These are her tips for what you should do. First of all, dress for success. No, your husband doesn't want to see you in your schlubby robe all day, Periel. Go ahead, Elizabeth. Tell her.
Thank you. Thanks for the prompts, Noam. I did forget what I wrote. Yeah, you want to get out of the sweatpants, the schlubby robe.
Oh my God, that's terrible news.
It's terrible news. Wash your hair. I know there's too many people I hear from that have just stopped showering. Like you want to, you don't have to have your, you don't have to have your power suit on, but you might want to put some clean clothes on. And
I mean, I
now,
haven't
ladies,
changed
wait.
my
Look great,
legs since
Periel.
March.
Ladies, let me ask you a question. Do you think it's the same? Do you think a man, are you care as much about a man getting dressed as the man cares about your appearance? Do you think?
Yes.
Yes. Periel?
Well, I mean, like I said, you don't have to dress up, but don't look like the biggest schlub again. Yeah.
I got to get out of my Hulk pajamas.
Yes,
Oh,
you have
shit.
to take off your superhero pajamas. I mean, I'm sort of still stuck on the fact that I haven't shaved my legs since March.
Oh, God.
Wow.
Did we?
Is that true?
First of all,
That's
it's
even more
not,
disturbing
but
than
I
your
feel like
And don't mention Europe in this answer, please. Now go ahead.
it's outrageous that you would be that scanned. I mean, have you shaved your legs since March?
Oh, no.
Okay, so why?
I mean, unfortunately,
I
I stand corrected.
what can I tell you? I react the way I react. I'm not proud of it.
It's
Maybe
a total double standard.
Yeah,
it's just the effect that it has on me. I can't help it. Unfortunately.
Okay, but let's not get off topic.
Okay,
Please.
next. So I suppose that you should, that if you had hair on your chest, you wouldn't have that lasered either, right? It's double
I'm
standard.
just saying it is a double standard.
Okay, well, you know what? It's not a double standard. There's two standards because there's two different sexes here. Anyway.
I think it's really hot that you have really hairy legs.
Listen, this is where gay men have a point about.
I don't. I mean,
Is Graham gay?
No, he's not gay. I'm just saying, as an abstract notion, women are in their natural state. They basically are men.
Yeah, I mean, you guys have decided in some patriarchal structure that we're supposed to be hairless beings.
Oh, shut up. Okay, here we go. Number 2, interact with the world. We're starved for connection. Is this the right column? Yeah. How does that apply to sex?
Did I say that about sex?
Yeah, it says
Interact, right? So
yeah. Try to.
Are you reading about the fairness laws by mistake?
Did I? How is your sex life? Yeah. Okay, let's skip that one because that may be straight. Okay, build space in your relationship. Independence is sexy.
This is huge.
Mystery breeds desire.
We're sitting on top of each other right now if we're living together. There's just no space. So we used to go do things. We'd go off into our own jobs. We'd go out and see our friends, not always together with our partners. And so we had hobbies. And I just feel like the longer this goes on, the more we're on top of each other. And it's just boring. You just don't have anything to talk about at the end of the day, even if you're not, talking about the news. So it's huge. You want to at least get out. Try to build those things back in your hobbies, talking to your friends, even if you're not going out. You want to build space any way you can right now.
What do you think about separate bedrooms for a couple?
I know people have really successful relationships doing it. People have been married, younger people married for a long time because the kids have different schedules or somebody, the night owl, early bird. But back to space, something that I just remembered. A number of years ago, I did a story looking at long-term couples and asking people who've been married 40, 50, 60 years, what the biggest pieces of advice were. I really thought it was going to be sex. It was space. Over and over and over again, they gave me space. That's how big it is.
What do you say, Periel? Do you have enough space?
No, I don't.
Do you have separate bathrooms? Do you have separate bathrooms in your house, Periel, for you and your husband?
We do, but I mean, what about separate houses?
Sounds
may
good,
be
right?
beyond.
Well, that's what Woody Allen and Mia Farrow. We see how successful their relationship was, but Mia Farrow and Woody had separate apartments. I don't think they were married, but they were basically married, and they had separate apartments.
Well, they only did that so he could fuck his daughter. No.
No, he didn't.
Okay. Build. Okay. Rethink how you initiate sex. A kiss or shoulder rub or dinner out used to do it. But now that we're exhausted and stressed all the time, we need to build up to sex to give ourselves time to relax and get in the mood. Put sex on your calendar. Go ahead. Take it, Elizabeth.
So, now that we're sitting next to each other on the couch all the time in our schlubby clothes, somebody's hand goes over, hey, or, you look at each other, it's not enough. Like, we're just like, you're just annoyed. Like, we're just sick of the person. And again, we used to naturally have these things. At least you would go out, or you knew, like, especially dating, all dating is like an appointment, it's on your calendar. If you're dating someone you like, that you're going to have sex. So, and then couples that were, married or long-term couples also would sort of plan it in. You would go out to dinner, you get a babysitter if you have kids. There were just these almost natural ways. But now, again, it's very, very hard to go from I have sat with you all day long where you're working in the next room. Now we're just sitting on the couch watching Netflix to, oh, I'm so hot for you. So you have to build it in. And it does help even to say, hey, you know what about Tuesday night? How's your calendar? Because then at least in your head, you start planning for it. You can get yourself ready.
Here's one that Periel will like. Try cooking your husband something he likes for dinner and saying something nice to him. No, that's not in the column.
Not in my article, Periel.
Elizabeth, aren't we kind of just going in the direction of have an open relationship? I mean, you seem to be, we're pussyfooting around the issue here, it seems to me.
Yeah.
Well, you can't have an open relationship.
What we really want is somebody else, sexually.
It is probably what we want often, certainly after that 2 years period. But you know what, the research on polyamory, which is exactly that, isn't so great either. It's showing that, they don't last. Like, that open relationship causes a lot of problems.
We don't want an open relationship. What we want is a lover on the side, which is not the same thing.
Right.
This is why that there's probably, I would say definitely, but I don't want to upset anybody, no God, right? Because what kind of God creates a world where men and women, you'd think, at least give us that. Let us be sexually attracted to our partners like the first day for the rest of it. No, but he doesn't do that. He creates a world in which we're sick of each other sexually after a short time.
Yeah.
You should read the Mark Twain story, The Mysterious Stranger. It's very short, but the whole point of that story is that essentially that we're created for the amusement of God. And this makes the plot line much more interesting.
Okay, I'll accept that explanation.
Okay, try something.
Wait, slow down though. Slow down. Doesn't the idea of like putting something on the calendar though, like sort of take away from like the sexiness and spontaneity of what makes having sex so much fun to begin with?
Yeah, it does. The idea of it is a little distasteful, right? I agree.
Well,
the problem is like these days it's not happening if you don't like find some room, right? And then also it gives you the chance, and you don't have to put your nice clothes on every day. You just plan for it, right?
I don't want to come late for coming early. All right.
You don't have to put it on your calendar at an exact time. You could be like, the cable company, Saturday between 10 and 3.
But maybe you don't have to call it sex night or sex 15 minutes, whatever. You call it like date night, and you like make a nice meal and you dress up and you make a night of it, and that's code for
that's exactly.
We know my situation. I fear
I'm
of it.
Single, but
I was going to ask you your situation.
That's why you're better at this, Graham.
Yeah, actually, I just got a new girlfriend, so it's.
Well, you're gonna need this after in 18 months. You're gonna come back and watch this.
Yeah.
Graham,
I screwed up the joke. Coming too late for coming too soon. But anyway, can I go on to that? So she says, try something new. The Kinsey study found that 1 in 5 people tried something sexually novel during the pandemic, and those who did were 3 times as likely to report improvement in their sex life. This makes sense because research has long shown that novelty boosts arousal and desire. So what about that?
So you want to try, I mean, this is research for many years. You want to keep trying something new. And I did ask the Kinsey researchers, who are pretty experienced at looking at everything sexually. This is Kinsey Institute at Indiana. Is it ever a chance that a couple's just tried everything? And they were adamant, no couples tried everything.
What?
So
What's
there's always something new.
Like what? Like a new person?
Like shaving your legs.
The bar's low for new here, Periel. But you could, it could be a position, could be a toy, could be a room, could be somewhere else in the house, like could be anything that you just, seems like it might be fun to you haven't tried.
Oh, I don't have the energy for sex.
It's all so depressing. You have to dress it up, and even then it's not gonna be that exciting.
Isn't there a drug you can take just to make you hot? Like, what do I have to, like?
So that's something new. You could try Viagra.
Exactly.
Yeah, maybe you should do. Yeah.
No, Viagra doesn't make you horny.
It makes you
No, it doesn't. But it gives you a stiffer wood.
Yeah, I'm saying, but if you're hot, you wouldn't have that issue.
Well,
might not
if
have
you're
that.
walking
But
around,
just having a bigger, stiffer piece might be exciting. That might be
exciting for you. You're like, I want to.
yeah, don't you want to
It's like a new toy.
Maybe.
something with it? Like if you have like a raging hard-on for like 3 hours, don't you want to do something about it?
First of all, I don't like that sexist. Why is a man's hard-on to be why is it an anger thing? Like, why do you view a man's hard-on as an angry thing? How about a extremely romantic hard-on?
Well, we use the word raging for a lot of
a pining hard-on.
But don't we use the word raging for a lot of extreme emotional states? One could have a raging appetite. One could have.
Yeah, but rage is anyway. I just Periel sees a lot of significance in language. Okay.
Exactly why.
Do we know what the top 10 or top 5 new things to do would be? Like, or is there anything new? Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter for the couple because it's where their comfort lies, right? So it's anything new. So, and anything they haven't tried, but over and over, these researchers talked about different places, like the kitchen island. Oh, I forgot. Now the story's all coming back to me. I did query a lot of people for it over and asked them just, how are you shaking it up? Over and over, the kitchen island came back from readers saying like, this was a new thing for them. Try that. So little tidbit there, maybe too much information from our readers.
It's not easy to have sex on a kitchen island.
No, it's not. You have to be super tall, I would imagine. I don't know.
Yeah.
Things fall, and then you can disrupt the base, and then you have to pay your landlord.
You experience speaking there?
But no. But let me ask you, as a married man with children, the fact that your wife is the mother of your children, does that take away the hotness? I mean, you might love her all the more, but doesn't that take away the sex appeal?
No.
Well, it shouldn't. It should make you, think, wow, this is absolutely the greatest woman. Look what she's done for me.
No,
But a great woman is not necessarily a sexy woman.
No, does it acknowledge that this woman gave birth to your child? Are you asking the fact that it's your child, which you think would make it less sexy, or that any child came out of that?
Of your children, so it's like is it harder to think of her as?
No, I haven't had that. I don't know. That doesn't sound right to me. Okay, and the last one. Oh, and it says you should read erotica to each other. I guess I could read Periel's book. Anyway, practice erotic. Elizabeth Periel has a book. The only bush I trust is my own, and her second book is On My Knees. And these books, these are good books actually.
Awesome.
Practice erotic empathy. Stop focusing on the things you hate about your body. Your partner doesn't notice them nearly as much as you do. And her backup for this, previous parts, it says is a link to the Kinsey study and this study and that study. Here she says, your partner doesn't notice them nearly as much as you do. Elizabeth says, I promise. This is her footnote. So if Elizabeth promises,
you're good. Trust me, you're good there. But seriously, I mean, I do really believe this because people spend so much time worrying about how they look and what's up, and then they don't. If I'm worried so much about how I look, then I'm never going to reach out. I'm never going to accept, my partner reaching out to me. And then you're just like sort of dead in the water there. But I promise you, I really do promise your partner's not so worried about it. If your partner initiates, your partner's interested.
I thought you were going to say, stop focusing so much on the things you hate about your partner.
That's harder. So, but that is absolutely, that's good advice though, right? Like you want to focus. This is for anything, anytime, going back to the original stuff we started to talk about, like readjusting negative thoughts, you want to actively like train yourself to sort of search for the positive. So again, like this is just good relationship advice. If you're annoyed at your partner, stop and make yourself focus on something you like about your partner, what you really love about him.
I don't think my wife could find anything. Anyway, all right. Well, that's about it. Elizabeth writes endlessly interesting columns, and we should probably, if she was interested, we could have her on more often, because every single one of them is like ingenious topics. I'll just read some of the best advice our elders ever gave us, how we can reconcile with each other when our politics are so polarized. Nervous about get-togethers because of writing. Regain your focus. I mean, all of them are like right between the eyes, things that are on our minds.
Thank you.
Yeah. I mean,
this was really fun.
Yeah, I'd be honored to come on. It's super fun to see you guys. Like, it's back to what we're talking about with Zoom. It's nice to see faces and talk about interesting things, have a good laugh.
Also, this was good for me because I'm right in that first 18 months. Like I'm in the first 2 months right now. So it's like I'm taking notes. I took notes.
Dude, do me a favor. Put an X on the calendar.
You met somebody in the quarantine. Wait, Graham, you met somebody in the quarantine?
Yeah. I met her at a outdoor birthday party at a park for somebody else.
Wow.
That's cool.
And how did you know she was, you took a risk?
I pulled down my mask to be like, hey, this is my face. And then hoping she would do the same because we were hitting it off, and then she did. And I liked the bottom half of her head. And then
I find that you can tell if somebody's attractive with a mask, especially with the mask that, like, depending on the mask, like the N95 that comes away from the face, but the ones that contour the face.
Profile. Yeah.
The ones that contour the face, like the cloth, the surgical mask. I think you can get it's my feeling, and not people have disputed this, that you can guess somebody's level of beauty, man or woman, on the standard 1 to 10 scale, the 1 to 10 beauty scale that we've been using since we were kids, within 1 point. You can. In other words, if somebody's a 9 wearing a mask, you know that they're an 8 or a 10 or a 9.
I think it would have to be a pretty gnarly bottom half, like a mouth area.
In rare exceptions, that could happen. But if the top area, you can see the symmetry, the skin, you can see the quality of the skin, you can see the nose, because if it's a surgical mask, you get a feeling for that. And unless there's some deformity, I think you can. It's my feeling that you can guess within 1 point on the standard 1 to 10 hot scale.
Well, I'd love to see if there was research on this. I've never heard of it, but also your eyes, like our eyes mean so much. And so when you're covered like this, your eyes mean even more. And I wonder if that would make you like even, it's like they say, if you're blind, you hear more. Like, I wonder if you can't see this, if you're even more focused on the eyes, which is a huge element of attraction.
We need to do research on this. I need a grant.
All right, we're over time. What is it, Periel?
Under budget.
I just really want to put in for revisiting the hairy leg thing.
No, we don't want to revisit that.
No, I'm serious. I think it's it's outrageous to me.
Well, I don't know how much of it is cultural. Like, in other words, if I was raised where women were unshaven, would I be attracted to unshaven? I don't know. But I wasn't raised that way, and I'm horrified by the notion.
No, but the thing is that, like, you guys just take for granted, like, it's such a given that it's so disgusting if a woman doesn't shave, which is really kind of shocking to me.
It's terrible, but what can I tell you? One has a visceral reaction. I can't help it. I don't like blue cheese either. I can't control that either.
That's a good way to put it, Dan, because cultural taste in food also, you're putting a value judgment on it. It's just what we're raised on.
But it's social conditioning.
It may be
social conditioning.
Thank you. Wait, sorry. What did you say, Elizabeth?
I said it is social conditioning. It is, but it goes back to like even liking locks. It is what you're raised on. If you have a visceral reaction to something or not, it does tend to be like, what you're used to, what you were kind of raised on. What gets me is the idea that, back like you should, that women should definitely keep themselves up, but maybe men don't have to. Like that to me is a little sticky too.
We definitely do, but it's also just a lot easier for us to keep our.
It is easier.
Look at Graham. He looks beautiful with that 3-day scruff. So manly.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this, Periel. Let's say nobody shaved their legs.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen women who don't shave their legs. Some women have barely any leg hair,
Mm-hmm.
and some women, are like monkeys, or like a lot of hair. Now let's say there was nothing about shaving. Still, I believe a lot of men would prefer the woman with less leg hair to the one who's like got,
I mean, it's like you always tell me when I make arguments that you vehemently disagree with, pick a standard and let that just be the standard for everyone. So why isn't leg hair the same thing? Like,
I'm making a point that there's a spectrum from no hair to hairy, and it's true. We all women shave their legs to be hairless. However, in other things, certain things do, like there seems to be like a universal type of backside, which is like there are certain things which are found attractive.
No, there are plenty of cultures in which women don't. It's not the same standard as the American standard.
Even in Asia, it is still they prefer to have a bigger backside, from what I've known. I mean, listen, if you're saying that standards of beauty, like what people find attractive, are all random, I would have to say no. And I think there's plenty of science to show that there's no culture on the face of the earth that looks at Brad Pitt and goes, "Oh my God, he's disgusting." I don't believe that.
You're getting off topic. I'm talking.
No, I'm not off topic.
I'm talking about body hair right now.
What I'm suggesting is that maybe the shaving of the legs comes from the ability to bring yourself to what is maybe within humans more naturally considered attractive, which is to have less hair on your legs.
Yeah, yes, it could.
Meaning like working out gives us the ability to be more muscular, right?
No.
Okay, maybe not.
I'm with Periel on this.
These are
there's a logic to what I'm saying, isn't there?
It certainly is.
What Elizabeth said, she said she's with Periel on this.
Right, but that's fine, but I'm just saying there's a logic to what I'm saying.
Yeah, there are certain things we find more attractive that don't seem to be cultural, and we're wondering if this is one of them, or at least in part.
You know that there's been a movement in the past 10 or so years where like there are a lot of
Who could think that this is not beautiful? Come on now. This is culturally
that's universly gorgeous.
Yes. Impervious.
Well, I was beautiful too at that age. I'd like to see what another 40 years does to her. After her dreams have gone unrealized.
I'm gonna have to go. My daughter has to tattletale, and she can't be stopped.
No.
You want to tell everybody? Tell everybody. Tell everybody. Say nice and loud. Go ahead.
Well, it's a little weird, but Manny.
That's her brother.
Manny was taking the shower, and he found the shaving thing, and he put it on his lip, and now he has a cut on his lip, and it hurts, and so it was a hurt twice.
Oh, that's all right. Is mother mad at him about that?
I mean, she was.
She shouldn't be angry at that. Okay.
Mila, how are your music lessons going? You playing piano or guitar?
Piano. And
Piano. Okay, well, we'll have to get the band together.
very good.
Oh, is she?
She really is.
Her family is musical. There's musical genetics there, so
Yeah.
she has that advantage.
Okay. Upstairs with you. I got to go too. I'm coming too.
What an adorable scandal.
It is adorable.
Now, at some point, somebody is going to brainwash that child into thinking that her natural state needs to be altered to conform to a manufactured patriarchal standard of beauty.
All right.
That is changing. Like being single, and I'm like in my late 30s, so I would be dating women in their mid 20s to late 30s, and that younger generation, no bras, very loose shaving regimen.
Yes, it has changed. That's right.
It really is changing pretty quickly.
It's great.
You better start swimming or you'll sink like a stone.
Listen, it was in the 60s that way too. Hairy armpits and no bras.
It's changed. It's great. It really is. You see a lot of younger women really rejecting that. And I got to say, it makes me very happy.
Yeah, so let's hope the woman's movement doesn't stop until it doesn't please men at all. And then he can declare victory. All right. I have to go. Goodbye, everybody. Nice to see you, Elizabeth.
No, it was very nice to see you.
Thank you.
Wait, Noam, you can go. Everybody, please say where they can find you, our lovely listeners.
We could do this again every week. We do this. I don't know if it makes the difference.
Well, we have different guests every week, also, right?
One thing from me, I always say at Dan Naturman. Nobody comes. But at Dan Naturman on Twitter. I'm not on Parler, but nobody is anymore.
For us, it's the podcast, though, Dan. It's
podcast@comedyseller.com for all your questions, comments, suggestions, queries. I said comments already. Insults or constructive criticism, or just dithyrambic praise. Is that the right word?
Dithyrambic praise.
I'm not even sure that's a word, but I think
dithyramb is a word. Elizabeth, where can everybody find you?
You can find me at E Bernstein WSJ.
And
not on Parler either.
I'm at Instagram K on Instagram K, and Mr. Graham K on Twitter, and I missed Parler.
Yes, we all do. All right, so see you next time on the Comedy Cellar Show, live from the table.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, guys. Thank you.
Nice meeting you, Elizabeth.
Nice to meet you too, Graham. You too,
Bye.
Periel.
Thank you.